So now I'd learned to deal with fear, and I'd understood how my scars and my setbacks were actually what could propel me into my future. But there was one more thing that I needed to learn that really underpinned everything else that had been happening for me. And I learned that when I was with another creature. I had gone to my parents' sugarcane farm to visit them, and while I was there I decided that I would go for a jog, which I often did when I was at their place, and usually their dog would come with me. So this day I decided to go for a jog, and the dog came trotting along behind me, but I was in a particularly grumpy mood. I wasn't feeling very good at all. And it had been raining on the farm for the few days before this. It wasn't raining on the day while I was jogging, but the ground was still a bit muddy and the grass was wet, and the grass was a little bit long too because of not being able to mow it. And of course on a farm the grass isn't even, the ground is all bumpy, so it wasn't a good day for jogging. But I decided I was going anyway, and off I headed. So I was jogging along and I kept tripping on wet grass, and I'd have to look down to see where I was going and look up again. And then I stood in a puddle and I got water splashed up my leg. And so I jumped to the other side of the track, and I was looking up to make sure I didn't bump into anything and looking down again. And I was getting really, really annoyed. And then, as would happen to me at this time of my life, when I started getting annoyed, I started thinking about what happened to Stuart and what happened to me, and I started blaming everyone for what happened. So I started thinking about the driver who had killed Stuart, and how dare he do that, and didn't he know we were good people and we didn't deserve that, and I could never fix it, and he had taken away so much from me. And I started getting really angry, and because I was on a farm, I started shouting. There was no one to hear me. And I was shouting as loud as I could, and my voice was actually stinging from shouting so loud. And I'm pretty sure that some fairly naughty words came out while I was shouting as well. The poor dog, I just frightened the life out of him, and he bolted. He was gone and left me by myself. So I kept jogging, looking up, looking down, trying not to trip, slipping in the mud, and eventually, of course, I fell straight down onto my hands and knees into the wet grass. And I sat there in the grass and thought, surely this is now my lowest point. No, it wasn't. I started to pull myself up out of the grass, and the dog turned around, saw me down on the ground and thought, we're playing, and came running back towards me, jumped up on me and pushed me back straight into the water. Then he proceeded to stand on my chest and lick the mud off my face. And just for a split second, I thought to myself, I have a choice. I can decide this is my lowest point, and my life is terrible, and my life will never get any better, and this is all I can ever hope for. Or I can laugh and say, this dog is really good fun and I'm okay, and maybe things will be okay in future as well. So I picked myself up off the ground, and I had the biggest sense of freedom that I had had since Stuart died. I suddenly realised that I was not controlled by what happened to me. I was only controlled by what I decided to choose, that it was up to me to decide to choose whether things were good or whether they were bad. Now you might be saying, but which one is true? It can't be both of them. Is it good or is it bad? Which one is the actual truth? Well, a good way to decide that is by looking at this picture. What do you see?
Both.
Yes. You can see a man looking forward, or you can see a man from the side on, looking sideways. So which one is true? Both of them. You decide which one is true by which one you focus on. If you focus on the man looking straight towards you, then that's your reality. If you focus on the man looking sideways, then that is also your reality. Every day, every time you look at that picture, you get to choose. That's your choice.